Hey, welcome on in, guys, and Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you guys can subscribe. That'd be great, and I appreciate you guys stopping by. So, Miami Heat schedule released today. No fancy schmancy release for the Miami Heat. They even made a little fun at it where they said, here's our schedule release. Where's our award? Which I think after last year and, a pretty quiet offseason, probably the way to go. Some of these organizations, they get really funny with it. But, you don't need a lot of antics. That's for the, that's for the Blazers when they have to use a poor little otter from the zoo to try and make their team interesting. So, I think it was probably wise of the Miami Heat and Heat admin to keep it simple for this one. Although some teams got a little bit froggy with it, and we'll get to that. But let's focus on Miami for now. So the big headline out of it, whenever a game or whenever a schedule comes out, the first thing you want to know, how many national TV games are there? And I think to the surprise of nobody, and you got a hint of this from the No Christmas game, but the Miami Heat got their national television schedule basically eradicated. Like, went from 16 games last year, which is not even a lot, but 16 games last year after a finals berth to a first round exit, they got 7. And the things that point out about it, it's not only is it 7 games, here's the weird thing about it. Immediately, the thing that stands out about it that's strange is 3 of the matchups are against Milwaukee. And I think that's really weird. I don't know. I feel like that would have been more of a storyline last year. And I don't, off the top of my head, I don't recall how many of the Heat Bucks games were national TV games last year. But that was immediately the thing that stood out to me. I was like, why are all of the national TV games, essentially half of them, against the Bucks? Very strange. They that one did not make a whole lot of sense to me, but that's the matchup they're going with. They're going with the Heat Bucks. Apparently, they find that to be really juicy, going back to the well of that matchup. The other thing that stood out with the national TV games, they get one home national TV game, and that is the first national TV game they have, which is 2 days before Thanksgiving. I believe that is an in-season tournament game, and that's on TNT, Tuesday the 26th, hosting Milwaukee. And then the rest of their national TV games, January 15th against the Lakers on the road at night, ESPN. Milwaukee the 23rd. February 23rd at Milwaukee. Then March 5th, Trail 5 Day at Cleveland on ESPN. And then you got a Knicks matchup on St. Patrick's Day at 7:30 at Madison Square Garden. And then their lone Celtics matchup nationally is April 2nd at Boston, and that is at 7:30. And so, look, the Miami Heat already didn't get like the national love and attention that they do, but I can't bitch about it too much off of the season that they just had. They did not have a good regular season. They did not do anything flashy or splashy or drama inducing to think that they were going to get a lot of national TV games. So this is about the least surprising thing right now that there is, that Miami does not have a whole lot of national TV games. So there you go. They dropped from 16 to 7 for this. They do not go on ABC at all. No ABC games, which according to Barry Jackson is the first time in the Jimmy Butler era, and that's because apparently they loaded up with Lakers, Boston, or Golden State on every one of ABCs. I mean, they're obviously going to load that up with as much as they can, and then that is this. So the other thing that's interesting about this with the Heat is they don't. This is in Barry's column. They don't currently. They haven't announced who is going to broadcast their games this year. And for those who want a little inside broadcasting, the Panthers jumped from Bally this year. They went to Channel 39, so they're going on broadcast television. They're essentially going to be on free television, which is really cool. But the Panthers coming off of their run, wanted, I'm sure they were very annoyed that they always ended up on the alternate. They ended up, if there was a Heat conflict, they always got bumped. And if there was a Heat Marlins conflict, they got bumped to the app, which is a little ridiculous for how as good as they are. So they were looking for a home that's to be their home. But according to Barry, the Heat remains non-committal about that publicly. Here's what he says. He says, our understanding is that the Heat would be fine staying with Bally Sports Sun, but the Heat remains non-committal about that publicly because a lot of it is contingent on Bally's parent company, Diamond Sports, reaching a global deal with the NBA, which has 14 teams with deals with Bally Sports. So sounds like they're kind of in a holding pattern with it. You'll be able to watch your Heat games, I imagine, this year. I think Xfinity settled all their nonsense, so if you're an Xfinity customer, I think that's all good. When I do watch, which is I'm a direct to app guy. That's how I watch the games on the Bally app. But we'll get a look and see if there's something like that closer to the season. The other thing is interesting. Both Barry and I are mentioning this. The Heat and Panthers, 25 conflicts this season. So it's not like the Heat could just like move to channel 39 like Barry mentions here. That's also going to be an interesting thing for our company, the place where I broadcast on 56WQM, because obviously that means there'll be 25 times that the Panthers will be likely on 790. So that's the little inside the broadcast game. Getting back to the schedule, though. So the Heat are going to open up their year October 23rd, hosting the Orlando Magic, which, look, the Magic are good. So that's that's not, that's when the Heat get the Magic matchup. I know everybody kind of rolls their eyes, but the Magic are a challenging, good team now. And so I think that's a fun way to open up the season. You get to open it up at home on October 23rd. And then you got the next home game. We call that a Tobin's birthday special, is against the Detroit Pistons at 7:30. The other interesting one of note early on in the season is Heat at Wizards on November 2nd. That's in Mexico City. You, of course, have the Jaime Jaquez Jr. setting there. So that's one. And then for the home fans, I'd say the most interesting pre-Christmas homestand is the 4th through the 8th in December, because you got Lakers visiting town. You have Saturday, Phoenix, and then a home back-to-back. You have Cleveland coming in. That is the same day as Dolphins-Jets, which is at 1 o'clock. So just keep that in mind with this. And the Heat, one of the things that is going to be vital to them this year is to improve that home record. It was very unimpressive last year. The Heat were 22-19 last year. They were a worse home team than they were a road team. They were a good road team. I mean, if you were 22-19 on the road, you would take that. The Heat were 24-17 on the road, which was second most wins in the Eastern Conference last year. Away from the Kaseya Center, they were very decent. They had some of their better wins, but at home it was so frustrating because you'd get home and you'd hope you'd get to these momentous runs that the Heat would be on, and especially against better teams, and they just couldn't do it. And there are just matchups that this year, like the Heat last year got swept 0-4 against OKC and Dallas. So two teams that were amongst the best in the Western Conference, one of them going to the NBA Finals, the other played them to a 6-game series. Obviously, a lot of people are thinking OKC is probably the favorite in the West this year, but you have Luke, you have Shea, and the Heat 0-4 against them this year. And I understand the Heat had a ton of injuries. We've done that story up and down, but I'm still looking at this as just a home court advantage. The Heat need to reestablish that. That has not been the case for them. They have been a very, very average home team this last year, and that needs to change. That genuinely does need to change for the Miami Heat and getting things right. It's one of those things where, it used to be back in my day, you used to have a South Beach flu. You used to have these kids partying their asses off and being able to establish something. And last year that was just not the case. So Miami needs to to really set those grounds there. There's another fun homestand, which is Tall Weekend, and that is you got Joker and Wemby coming in on a Friday, Sunday. Now, I don't see. Here's the thing. This is a conflicting one for me because obviously I want to see the Dolphins go far. That is on Sunday the 19th. Maybe the Dolphins will end up on a Saturday game, but that is, I believe, divisional round weekend. So I'm not sure. I did not get to see Wemby in person last year. That was one of the home games that I missed. So I'm hopeful that I will. I see nothing that's going to conflict with me not going to the Denver game. I love seeing that matchup. And I would like to see the Heat get the best of them. That's another team that's another team that just had their numbers. So, this has been said up and down again. I think that the Heat, with these matchups, you want to look at this and get yourself in a position where they are, they take home court a little bit more seriously, but also can show themselves to be amongst the better teams, beat the better teams in this league, and especially at home when you have them coming into your building. That last year was just not acceptable. The two big road trips that they got a 6-game tripper coming up in November. And that one is starting up November 6th, so fairly early in the season, at Phoenix, at Denver, at Minnesota, with a Detroit mixed in there, and then it ends with 2 games over the weekend in Indiana. So that's going to be a really big early test for Miami. It's not like the most daunting first couple weeks of the season, but that first road trip is definitely a test. And then you come back off of that and catch this homestand. You got Philadelphia coming in with, of course, their revamped Big Three. I'm not looking at their second half back-to-back, so I'm just assuming everybody plays. But it is the NBA regular season. Who knows? Then Dallas, that Dallas matchup I talked about, and then their first national TV game. So that November is going to be – that's a bear for Miami. That's definitely going to be some – are they here? Are they for real? And the other thing that this is going to be interesting for them, and this kind of goes to their roster, Jimmy Butler, for the majority of his career, the most missed games that he has with the Miami Heat is in the first half of the season. That's typically when he's the most banged up. That's typically when he has the propensity to sit out games if he's not a Hundy. This is going to be interesting. If he does push through some things, if he's already in that mode, if this is CYJ, contract year Jimmy, and not SQJ, side quest Jimmy, where you're looking at a guy who is locked in immediately, you're gonna need it. This is gonna be some early testing, and I think the thing that's gonna be interesting about it is it really could spell what is the Heat's direction going to be going to, as far as like, do they think they're a real team? Do they make a deal at the deadline? Where are the other teams in this league? So I think it's going to be interesting, and it's one of those things where you almost hope for health, just so that he can be more honest with themselves. You hope that if they do get their clock cleaned early on, all right, what moves do they make? Or on the other side of it, if there is a big time swing to make, because Miami comes out of this and be like, all right, we are a legitimate East team, and we've made that statement early on to go make this happen. So it is one of those where I am I'm very, very curious to see what the first half of this year looks like. And then on the second big road trip, that is coming in January, the West Coast trip. They go to Sacramento January 6th. That runs through January 15th. But you got at Sacramento, at Golden State, at Utah, at Portland, and then it ends with the 2 LA games. So, it's not the most daunting trip because, you got the 2 Northern Cal teams, the 2 corner of the countries, and then back to LA to solve that. That's not like travel-wise awful. That's not like the other one where it's like, oh, you're going to Phoenix, then to Denver, then to Minnesota. That one's got, that is got to be the most brutal one that they got. They got one where they got a back-to-back in Toronto and Boston. That's not going to be easy. And then speaking of those chowder-heads, the first Boston matchup is going to be in Beantown December 2nd. And then they don't play him again until February 10th. And then again in March and then March 14th. And then finally April 2nd for a national televised game. So all in all, I think the Miami Heat are going to have a lot of truths revealed to them early on, should they actually have a real sense of their roster and everybody is good to go. But this is raring to go, man. The countdown is on. We are getting ready. Cannot wait. Circle your calendars. October 23rd. We get this puppy going for realsies.